Hi everyone. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Laura and I live with lipedema. And I just wanted to hop on here because I see often women asking what the benefits of getting a diagnosis are after discovering lipedema and aligning all of those symptoms with their own experience. So essentially, women finally learning what lipedema is and realizing that is the reason they have struggled their entire lives with losing weight, especially from your lower limbs and arms. And so I hear a lot of people saying, like, you have to get a diagnosis. And then other people saying they went to their family doctors and their doctors suggested that they lose weight. Likely because it's beyond their scope of practice. So there's sort of two answers. I'm Canadian, and at the moment there is an organization or a group called Lipedema Canada, and they are starting to track where certain women have gotten approval through their healthcare. But the numbers are like less than 10 in all of Canada. So I would say, for me, my biggest priority when I discovered lipedema and had like an aha moment, like, oh my gosh, this is why I've experienced what I've experienced my whole life. My first reaction wasn't, I need a diagnosis. One, because this was the explanation for why I had experienced my whole life what I had experienced in terms of my feet, my legs never being able to shrink them with diet and exercise. So I feel like as soon as I learned about lipedema, I knew that I had it. And in those moments, I didn't need a doctor to validate the fact that I knew I experienced lipedema, and therefore I could begin to do some research and discover what I could do to begin to support my body as well as ward off any new lipedema growth. For those of you who maybe haven't seen or heard from me sharing about my experience, I hit about 34, 35 and began to gain weight rapidly without changing my diet or exercise. And this was my body going into perimenopause and that triggering lipedema growth. And so this began curiosity within me about my own body and one, how it was betraying me so badly, and two, understanding my entire life's experience with diet and exercise and weight gain. So when I discovered lipedema, I was like, okay, what can I do? And I know not everybody's like that, and maybe you don't want to start doing something without knowing exactly where you are. However, I want to, especially if you're Canadian, caution you that if you are going looking to your healthcare provider to give you the tools needed to begin to treat your own lipedema, if you're Canadian, you may not be met with open arms and solutions. And it's not your general practitioner's fault or your nurse practitioner's fault. It's just a lack of education out there. I do recommend that if you are Canadian, even if you're American or European, printing out, there is a lipedema standard of care in the United States. I think they may be working on one in Canada, but if you take that with you to your appointment, it is very, very thorough and will create an opportunity for you to then educate your doctor. And so this is why I say getting a diagnosis wasn't my number one priority. And if you're Canadian, it might not be yours. So the second answer is it may be one of your number one priorities, beginning the process of getting that diagnosis, especially if you are American and you have private health care. There are many private health care companies that do cover lipedema removal surgery. And so it's something to definitely start the process in. And even if you're Canadian, starting the process of this is good, because even if your doctor has never heard of lipedema, it's an opportunity for you to begin to educate potentially. And maybe you're educating as you're learning too. So in the US, if you do have private health care, many women's surgeries have been covered, like definitely more than 10. Probably at least 10,000 or more. I don't know the stats on how many surgeries have been covered in the US. If you do, feel free to share them. I'm sure because there's various healthcare companies, there may not even be an exact number out there, but if there is and you know it, feel free to share it. When getting a diagnosis, whether you're in Canada or the United States, your general practitioner may not feel comfortable diagnosing it because it may be beyond their scope of practice. However, asking for a referral to a vascular surgeon can be a pretty efficient way to get in and be seen. Most women, maybe not all, experience some sort of vascular deficiency along with their lipedema. And so many vascular surgeons and specialists have been versed and educated at different conferences about this, because a lot of them are working on women's legs, and they're going to see women's legs with fat and then women's legs with an abundance of fat. And in many cases with vascular surgeons, they may see more women with fatty legs, and this isn't necessarily something that is normal. So it is abnormal adipose tissue growth. So to make a long story short, if you are American in particular, or especially, getting a diagnosis can be a really wonderful way to begin the process towards lipedema removal surgery, if that is something that you choose to do. If you are Canadian, getting a diagnosis may be a bit of a journey for you, as it's less talked about and less researched and known here in Canada. So going in with the lipedema standard of care that was written by Dr. Karen Herbst and a few other fellow physicians and can be found online is a really great resource to share with your healthcare practitioner. But ultimately, whether you live in the United States, Canada, Europe, or wherever you are right now, getting a diagnosis is not standing between you and beginning some conservative treatments, because you might be seeing this for the first time right now and being like, okay, I need to get a diagnosis so I can begin to figure out what's next. You can figure out what's next now. Make a doctor's appointment if that's important to you. But there are many different things that you can begin now. One is drinking lots of water. You may be like, oh, but then I pee a lot. That is good. That is your lymphatic system getting rid of toxins. Second one, compression therapy. So this might be something you need to make an appointment with your doctor about anyways, especially if you're in Canada. You do need a prescription for anything that is between 20 and 30, but you can get some that are less in order to begin wearing compression. There's many that I ordered off Amazon before I did get a diagnosis and a prescription. A third conservative treatment that you can begin is movement. So I will say, like, just Dr. Karen Herbst, talks about, I can't remember, she calls it something CAT. So where you shake your legs and you shake your arms, and this is gonna get lymph flowing. This is why people use a rebounder. I'm not on a rebounder, I'm just jumping on the ground. But you don't actually need a rebounder to begin jumping and moving your body. But you can get a rebounder if that's more fun. I have one, I think it's fun, but I don't have it here, and I can definitely jump on the spot. Coming up and down on your calves, I don't know if you're going to be able to see me, coming up onto your toes, essentially pumping your calves is very, very helpful for your lymphatic system as well as blood flow. So that's something that you can begin right now. Manual lymphatic drainage, you can do this yourself. It's just like gentle massage essentially, but especially in your legs, because that's where a lot of our fluid and stuff gets stuck, our lymph fluid. Legs up the wall, you just lay on your back. So I do it right on this post here, pointing at it, and put my legs up that, and that helps to drain that lymphatic fluid to my lymph nodes, and it is really powerful. There are also many different supplements that women with lipedema tend to be deficient in, one being vitamin D. So I take a vitamin D supplement. Some women are very deficient in iron as well as vitamin C. Feel free to start taking those together, is great. And then the next thing you can begin to do if you haven't done it already is, because often lipedema growth is triggered by a hormonal period in a woman's life, figure out your hormones. And if you go and you speak to your doctor and they're like, this is normal, like if you're going through perimenopause or menopause, share with them that it may be something that many women experience, but it's not really optimal, especially if you have lipedema, because with excess estrogen it becomes very taxing on your lymphatic system. And this is generally when women begin to accumulate a lot of extra adipose tissue. So figuring out your hormones is a really powerful thing that you can do for yourself. And it's something I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do before getting surgery, if surgery is something that you have a desire to do. And here's why. Lipedema can grow back. If you don't figure out what different things trigger your own lipedema, you can go and get surgery and then that lipedema fat come back, because figuring out the triggers is going to put you in an optimal state of health, so that when you do get rid of that excess lipedema fat, there's no reason for it to grow back. Because once it's gone, also your lymph system is going to work more optimally. You're going to continue to do those conservative therapies that you started to practice. So for example, compression, some manual lymphatic drainage, massage, exercise, walking, shaking, like I said, to continue to support your body. So that is it for today. I just wanted to come on here and just talk about that, because I see a lot of women saying like, do I need to get a diagnosis? Did you find it beneficial? And in my next video, actually, I'm just going to talk about my emotional response to lipedema, as well as knowing that I had it through, I wouldn't say through getting my diagnosis, because as soon as I heard of it, I was like, whoa. But I'm going to share that in my next video. So have a wonderful day, everyone.